This is Reimagining the Contact Center. I'm Marc Bernstein, and today I'm interviewing David Karandish, founder and CEO at Capacity. We start out this interview touching on the standard contact center topics, the future of CRM and CCaaS and AI in the contact center. But then this interview becomes so much more. It becomes about organizing the world with the pace of AI and technology and what that means for the workforce and what it's like to build a business in the next couple decades. How do you make sense of it all? David is one of the sharpest, clearest thinkers I've ever met with the most compelling organizing frameworks for making sense of all this. I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did. Everybody, David Karandish, founder and CEO at Capacity. David, hey, so good to see you.
Hey, good seeing you, Mark.
You are one of the most unique thinkers in contact center and technology that I've ever met. I love how you started out in the internet era, like the true .com era, and built one of the big businesses of that era, and now have taken that, think big, swing big thinking to contact center. Maybe we could start there for a second. Like, could you talk a little bit about before you started Capacity, like how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I started my career out in the comparison shopping space, helping people make decisions online about what to buy. And as part of that, we cut a bunch of deals with companies to syndicate their content to us. And then we started adding Q&A to each of those websites. And so the idea was that questions and answers would add a lot of value to the end user. It would be good for search engine fodder back in the day. And then it would also be good for the advertiser because a more informed user is more likely to buy. So I got in that space. I think we generated about 10,000 questions and answers for my company, Announce Media, and that led us to go acquire a company called Answers.com. So we acquired that in 2011. We took it private, merged it with my comparison shopping company, went through a whole host of transition after that, both by getting into the world of social as well as doing a software as a service roll up. And then we got that to a successful exit back in 2014, stuck around a little bit after that. And then it was time for me to exit stage left and do something new.
Awesome. So one of the things I think is so interesting about what you're building at Capacity, and definitely feel free to correct me if I'm getting any of the details wrong, is you guys are converging some of the biggest technology platforms in contact center. You're converging help desk, you're converging AI, you're converging even CRM and AI bots. So I'm curious your thoughts on, let's take CRM, CCaaS, AI, maybe even help desk. Do you see all of these spaces in the next few years becoming one space and there'll be a handful of killer apps across all of them? Do you see folks kind of continuing to build out vertical specialization? Like, how are these key spaces, the big spaces we're all used to, CRM, CCaaS, AI, how do we see these things smashing together?
Yeah, I want to start out with a little bit of how I think about the space, and then I'm going to answer your question. When we started out, we initially started Capacity as an internal support for your team, and we were pretty big in the mortgage space. That was where we first cut our teeth. We still have great mortgage clients today. That was a fantastic industry to be in when interest rates were near free. When Powell hit the brakes on the economy and interest rates skyrocketed, we knew we were going to have to diversify. So as we started talking with different companies in different industries, there was this theme that just kept emerging. And I heard it once, I heard it twice. Pretty soon I was hearing it dozens and dozens of times over. And the theme was, David, I don't want to have to go to one company for my help desk, a different company for my workflows, one company for my SMS, a different one to do my email support, one for my voice support, one for my internal bots. Can you come in as a platform and just take care of this for us? So we have one throat to choke, we have one place to go do our automation, and I don't have to go spend all this time duct taping together all of these solutions and then devote people resources toward that. So that was that was the summary of about 2.5 years of discovery calls, sales calls, talking with people. People just kept saying that. So I had this thesis around platforms, that platforms are different from product suites, and they differ in a couple of ways. Platform is connective, meaning that It can touch all the different pieces of what you have, and they'll connect. Uh, and also, a platform is generative in the ability to go build new solutions on top of it. Or said another way, the way I kind of think about it, in a product suite, think of like Microsoft Office as a product suite. When I'm in Word, I'm primarily using Word. When I'm in Excel, I'm primarily using Excel. When I'm in PowerPoint, I'm primarily using PowerPoint. In a product suite, the value is in the nodes of the products that you're using. In a true platform, the value is in the edges. It's in the connections between the nodes where the value happens. So I had this ongoing discussion with companies where they're like, I don't want to duct tape these things together. I had this emerging idea around what is a platform, what could a platform look like. And then I came across an organizing framework called Compound Startup that Parker Conrad, the CEO over at Rippling, helped coin. And the idea is that in a compound startup in 2025, most areas, there are point solutions already for pretty much everything you're going to go build. And so the next big wave is not going to be building the next point solution, but it's figuring out how to take what used to be disparate point solutions, tie them together, lower the price for any one of those items, maximize the overall price for the bundle of what you're selling, and then go bring that to the market in one integrated play. And so that's a strategy they're running over at Rippling, and they ran at Zenefits before that. And I'm basically running the exact same play, except we're running a compound startup into the contact center space.
I love the point you made around the nodes versus the edges. If you are a company implementing a chat bot, like of course you want the chat bot to be effective and that experience, that contained experience is important. But what you really want is that it's effective and that it has a seamless handoff to voice and that it stores the data in some sort of structured way where you can query it later and that it's easy to QA the stuff from the chat. So I totally see what you mean that like the connection points of where the data flows in the contact center might be as important or even more important than does the individual SKU, the extent to which how powerful the individual SKU is.
Yeah, and the challenge is the bigger surface area you go for, and someone can fact check my math on this afterwards, but I think it's an n factorial problem in terms of what those combinations look like. So if I have n nodes, I have n factorial edges. And so that means as you add additional products in, unless you've thought about this from the beginning as a
Yeah.
platform, it's really hard to make all those connections happen at the way that you'd like them to.
Totally. And we think about that all the time and butt up against it as a challenge where we have a customer and they say we want to integrate with X. And then what is the first question that you're always going to ask if you're a product leader or you go, how many other customers are using X or how many total ARR dollars are using X? And that means that you have all of these one-off little fringes on the edges where like it's only a few of them. Only the Salesforces and the ServiceNows are really like easy tipping points to say, yes, let's integrate. And then you have all the ones on the edges where you're like, I'm not sure it's like the biggest thing on the roadmap. But the approach you guys have taken sounds like you're kind of skirting around that problem.
Yeah, and the way I kind of think about it is, and this is another organizing framework we like to use. So when I think about the typical tech stack, you've got your systems of record at the bottom. Those are your big databases in the sky, your help desk, your CRM, your ERP, your pick your whatever you run your organization on. HRIS system could be your EHR system in a healthcare environment. Then you've got your system of engagement at the top. This could be Slack or Teams internal. It could be your website or your chatbot external. It could be voice. And then you've got the systems of intelligence in the middle. This is your AI layer. These are your LLMs. These are your workflows and your automations and your all of your internal business logic and that sort of thing. And so what people are discovering along the way is that these systems of record are really good databases and really bad interfaces.
Yeah.
I have not met a human who's like, you know what? If I could spend all day in Workday, my life would be complete. Or if
Yeah.
I could just spend more time in SAP, I'm going to be a fulfilled human in my life, right? Nobody says that. It's because these are basically CRUD databases on steroids. They're not great interfaces. And so what's happening in the workplace is people are shifting toward I don't want to have to go into pick whatever interface you want, Workday to submit my PTO, or Salesforce to update my contact record. I want to be able to use an engagement layer interface to go make connections, updates, add input, pull data from those systems of record. So you have that going on as well. So you've got these kind of multiple confluence of trends. You've got people not wanting to duct tape these things together. You've got this trifecta layer of what's happening in the tech stack. And then the other thing that we recognized was that we started out in the intelligence layer, and then we were building down into the system of record layer. So we didn't have a help desk. We didn't have a CRM. We didn't even have a knowledge base when we started. But what we realized is that you would build those things very differently if you're starting from AI first principles than you would if you're trying to tack AI onto those things at the end.
How so?
So I'll give a simple example. In the help desk world, your ticketing software, the default should be every response gets fed back into the AI. Now, there's sometimes you want to opt out. You might have PII, there might be certain situations, but the default should be anytime a human is responding, it is feeding back into the AI, not, oh, we have to go back after the fact and like try to munge this back into the learning. Another example, you think about what's the classic CRM problem. I upload all these contacts. I've got to go deduplicate them. Like that should be like standard out of the box. The AI is finding which contacts match, which contacts are similar, that sort of thing. Another way to think about it too, if I kind of break down all of the things that go into CRM, when you think of CRM, the first thing you think are, contacts and maybe accounts. And then there are lists, and then there are campaigns, and then there are Kanban boards. But then you want all the dev connectors to all of the individual apps. You want to have workflows to be able to take on processes behind the scenes. You want event-based automations and webhooks that kick off when certain things happen. If something is stuck in a stage, if something moves to a stage, what should we go do? And so what's interesting, and again, I would love to say that this was all a big plan from the beginning. Of course it wasn't. But we actually started with that intelligence layer. So we had the workflows and the automations and the AI bots and the event-based triggers and the webhooks. Building the accounts and contacts is actually the easy part if you have that layer. And what we also realized was that the same workflows, automations, AI-powered bots that you need for help desk are the same ones you need for knowledge base, are the same ones you need for CRM. And so we kind of think of it as a really strong centralized intelligence layer will make integrating into native specific systems of record so much easier.
So let's explore that stack or those layers for a minute. Engagement, intelligence, record. One of the things you hear about system of record is that it's going to get commoditized. It's going to simply be the back-end plumbing and infrastructure, and it's not really going to matter what database you're on. But then you have true like CRM aficionados who are like, you will never replace Salesforce. The ability to manage all of your contacts at scale and the robust reporting suite and all of the different folks on the apps on the App Exchange, the Salesforce Exchange is like so crucial. So what do you see? Do you see CRM getting commoditized when you get to that real like the database work? Is there kind of a point where it becomes like you have to be a specialist in order to get it right, or like did maybe Salesforce do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, and now we can folks companies like Capacity can learn from that and build something much simpler at scale that's still highly functional?
Yeah, so first of all, I think the death of Salesforce is greatly exaggerated. I'll start with that. Uh, I saw an interview with Andre Karpathy a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how 12 years ago he rode in his first self-driving car. And he's like, this is amazing. It drove, it made left turns, its blinker on, it pulled up to the car. It's like, this is going to be here, right? And then you fast forward 12 years later, and there are some self-driving cars in pockets and places, but most people are still not being completely driven by an autonomous vehicle. My kids, my oldest is 13, my youngest is 8. They're still going to have to learn how to drive. So his point was people said, oh, this is going to be the year of self-driving cars. No, no, no. This is going to be like the double decade of self-driving cars. It's going to be 20 years before we really make a big impact. Very similarly, people are talking about 2025 as the year of the agent. This is the year that agents break out. And his point, which I completely agree with, by the way, is that this isn't the year of the agent. This is the decade of the agent. And the reason it's the decade of the agent is that there is a long tail of use cases before you can go fully autonomous, no humans in the contact center. That is still going to take time, the same way that there's a long tail of driving conditions where even if you could get self-driving cars to work 80, 90, 95% of the time, for it to be completely mainstream where my kids or my grandkids don't need to learn how to drive, it's going to take some time. So I just want to start out with that. So I think this idea of the death of the system of record again is greatly exaggerated. I think the death of Salesforce greatly exaggerated in the short run. In the long run, I think there's going to be a cost question of if you are a mid-market company, can you afford to work with a system like Salesforce? And I think the answer to that is going to come down to, will companies like Salesforce set up their systems to where the AI is actually helping you build this stuff out? So like one thing we're working on right now is nobody wants to customize a CRM. It's the last thing, I want that, like I want a hole in my head, right? Nobody wants to build a workflow from scratch with nodes and drag and drop. Nobody wants to have to script out 17 layers of a conversational experience. People are figuring out that you can go apply these AI agents to conversations. I think the next loop is going to be having AI agents build workflows for you, customize the CRM. Like you basically will be working with an AI agent throughout your help desk, throughout your knowledge base, throughout your CRM. And so the big question to me is going to be, how much do these systems of record evolve to take advantage of this agentic world that we're entering and this agentic decade that we're in?
I totally see AI being an important part of configuration. And I feel like that story doesn't get told enough, where you have an AI agent and the agent is going and doing a whole bunch of actioning in whatever systems it's working in. Um, but to set it up is flow builders and having to create all these different decision points. And we have seen some folks basically describe your flow to me, describe what you want, use it in natural language, and then we'll set up the flow for you. I'm hearing kind of mixed results around that now, but I do think that agents doing, AI doing the configuration, AI configuring AI is absolutely where it's going to be. Because if you even just look at the pain point, like what are one of the biggest pain points people have with any technology? It's setting it up.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And again, that's not 10 years out. That's in the next 12 to 24 months. You're going to see some major, major advancements in that area.
So then what if we go up the stack? One of the things that I'm interested in is how much is the system of intelligence going to end up being a system of engagement? Like, is our interface, we all have seen it to some degree with ChatGPT. ChatGPT has, there's basically no interface. It's a bar. It's one text bar, and it just shoots you back text and can shoot you back images. But basically, the system of engagement is very bare bones, and it's just saying, it's intelligence that you go back and forth with the intelligence, and that gives you, what you're looking for. So to what extent do you think that AI is going to take over the engagement layer, or perhaps do you see that like this is the time for more Apple-esque products with really simplified, beautiful engagement layers with AI underneath that you don't really see the AI, you're not really interacting with it, it just knows what you want. Like, where do you see that balance going?
Yes, I think I answered this question. It's very, very much a contextual. I'm going to give you a very much contextual answer to this, but I would start out. I'm going to ask you a question. Give me a ballpark. Yesterday was Tuesday. How many emails did you send yesterday? Ballpark. First number that comes to your head.
20,
20. How many emails did you receive yesterday?
60.
60, right? You've got a 3-to-1 ratio of inbound to outbound.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's not, I'm not criticizing it at all. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying
no. I
from,
know, I know.
right?
I'm just sitting here now thinking about all the emails that I didn't respond to, and it's like, oh, I feel bad.
No. Okay. So let's cover that.
Yeah.
That there are two-thirds of your email, there could be a response that an AI could take over, number one. But number two, though, I think the big thing is these systems of engagement layer are either today waiting on you to take an action for you to read an email, or you're waiting on other humans are interrupting your day with Slack, email, ping, Teams message, etc. What I think this technology is going to move toward right now, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all these types of systems, they're very reactive. You are putting in a prompt, you are putting in a query, you are asking it something. The next big phase is when first 40 of those emails, maybe 20 of those get auto-responded from your AI. Maybe it starts out in copilot mode where you're blessing the response before it goes back out. But I also think the big thing is that these AIs are going to start to reach out to you. Hey, Marc, you need to call so-and-so from this company. There's a great upsell opportunity. Why haven't you reached out? Marc, hey, you got to pick up the baby formula. Can I put that on your to-do list? Your wife texted you that make sure to do that on the way home. Marc, you got an interview here at 6. I've created a summary from their resume and their LinkedIn profile, and I looked at their previous websites of the companies they worked at to give you a little more depth on what they were doing. Here's the dossier on that. So I think that's the route we're going to start moving toward. And when you get to the point to where the AI is proactive rather than reactive,
Mm.
it's going to be a complete game changer.
I'm thinking about, and it's funny because you hear a lot about the concepts of productivity and volume, where, you think about, is AI going to make people more productive? And the answer almost is always yes. And then the question is, well, does that mean they're going to do more work? If you're more productive, you're going to do more work, you're going to do less work. Are you going to have more stuff that comes onto your plate? It's interesting because if AI is serving up these recommendations or, tasks, I can imagine the first thing people saying being, "Oh, that's that's more work." So then I think that there might need to be some sort of balance where AI would need to show you it's taking away some work as well. And I think maybe that's kind of what you were getting to with like managing the inbox.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, how many times you check in your inbox or your Slacks? I mean, I've been guilty as charged, right? A zillion times a day. Like the AI should be handling that, running first pass on that, and then you're getting a summarization of here are the things you need to follow up on. These look important. These don't look important. These were things that probably need to get attended to soon. These are things that are on your list but not urgent, that sort of thing.
So let's talk about M&A activity in the contact center space. I saw a LinkedIn post the other day, and somebody was lamenting that the acquisition landscape has been disappointingly quiet. That they were expecting kind of this big, M&A boom. Um, when interest rates, went up, and a bunch of companies, were kind of getting dry in funding, and at the same time, AI opportunities were exploding, and more folks would want to take the sort of compound startup that approach that you guys have. And there have been a few notable acquisitions in the space, like Nice bought LiveVox, Invoca bought Symbol, CallMiner bought Vocalls, Calabrio bought Echo. But Capacity has, to my knowledge, been the single most active player in M&A in the contact center space. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think you guys might be seeing that some of the other players might have perhaps missed in thinking about how you're growing your company?
Yeah. So when I think about the building out the compound startup, we've identified 24 steps of the customer experience journey that are ripe for automation. I won't go through all 24 here. That'll bore your audience. But to put it in to summarize it, we've got a whole bucket that are about self-service deflection. We've got another bucket that are more about agent assist, reducing handle time, coaching and QA. And then we've got a third bucket that are about the campaigns and the workflows and the surveys and things like that. And so ultimately, you're either increasing the deflections, no human involved from the agent side. You're decreasing the handle time of an agent when something does need to escalate to a human. You're automating a process, or you're driving a conversion. Like ultimately, everything we do is going to fall into one of those four metrics. And so as we got into this, we realized that there's a build versus partner versus buy strategy. And some of this stuff is going to be stuff we just got to go build. And some of this stuff is going to be stuff we need to partner on. So we do payments through our SMS platform. We didn't build that. We got a partnership with Stripe. We do really well with them. We get additional tiers as we grow. It's been a nice little revenue add-on for the business. Our customers love it. I didn't need to go build that out in 2026. What we found though is that with certain problem sets, there are people who've gone really, really deep into that problem set. And there are peculiarities of that particular problem set that might not emerge on first glance that then become more challenging as you get into it. So like a couple of years ago, we acquired a company in the SMS space. We were just starting to get in that space. And we're like, oh, wow, why don't we just go set up a Twilio account, create some SMS, send some. It's like, you got all the 10DLC registration. You've got making sure that you can handle all the time zone restrictions. You can go to prison if you send SMSs at the wrong time, too many of them. You've got throttling of how you send messages out. You've got certain types of messages that need to be flagged and filtered. You've got all of the opt-in, opt-out list management. You've got all the tie-ins with the carriers as the carrier rules continue to change. You have different things you have to do internationally versus domestically. You now have RCS on the rise, these more rich content in terms of not just straight text. And then add to all of that, you've got managing one-to-one, one-to-many. When does it hand off to a bot? When does it go to a human? How does a human take over when the bot's failing? So these are non-trivial problems beyond just sending a quick SMS message out. And so we found a company that was deep in the SMS space, deep in these lists and contacts, sending 5 million SMS messages a month. We were deep in bots. They were deep in SMS. Their clients were asking them for more AI. Our clients were asking us for SMS as a channel. We put the two together. We sent 22 million SMS messages last month. A lot of that was automated via AI. And we'll be on track to send 100 million of SMS messages a month in a few years. And so I just look at that and I'm like, it's that classic 9 women can't make a baby in a month problem, no matter how hard they try. I don't recommend that. You can't just always throw mythical developers at it and get to the stage you want.
I love that. I love that perspective. And honestly, what really hits me there is the appreciation for depth in any area. Like you guys have not at all been naive around, oh, that should be easy. We can just do it. And I think that's actually that naivety is like very common in tech because you kind of feel like you have superpowers because you have developers and usually you've raised cash and you have ideas and you're composed of a company of generally smart, capable people. And so it's easy to go, oh yeah, we'll just build that. And I love that you guys had the perspective of, maybe there's more depth to each of these problems. And, even with the smartest people who are, great at, building out technology, there will be a learning curve because there's simple knowledge that they have to acquire that they don't have right now. And if we can work with a company that already has that knowledge plus the technology, that gives us some sort of material advantage.
Well, and then add to that, it's very different about this strategy today from where we were when I was at answers.com. Because at answers.com, acquiring SaaS companies, these companies were very much mono app, front end and back end are all intermingled, not a lot of API support. And so to go absorb that it was very difficult to do because we'd have to re-platform a lot. And so when we think about where we're at today, we think of a SaaS acquisition in terms of 4 stages. The first stage is we acquire a company, it's under our umbrella. They haven't integrated anything yet, which is under the same ownership stage. Second stage is we get our capacity developer platform to talk to that company's APIs. And so and this usually happens within the first 30 to 90 days, like very, very quickly. Now we can push and pull data from the company we acquire as if it was just another data source. Then the third layer would be where we are, because the company we acquire has all the requisite APIs, we will wrap that content behind our capacity console interface. So it's the seamless look and feel, seamless usage, but we don't have to go back and re-platform the back end. And then the last stage 4 would be if we actually need to go migrate from an older platform to a newer one. So I don't need everything to get to stage 4. I just need these companies to get to stage 2 and stage 3, depending on what we're trying to go do. And so the fact that most companies are building in an AI API first kind of mindset makes that much, much easier today than it did 10 or 15 years ago.
David, what really strikes me there is that, everything, takes some sort of practice, and, you build up some sort of muscle memory for it, and you can build up a muscle memory for, launching new products, or build up a muscle memory for a certain type of marketing campaign. And you guys, Capacity has uniquely built up a muscle memory for making M&A successful.
Yeah, we've got a great team. Our CFO's done an awesome job. We've got a nice corp dev team. I think part of it is we've built our platform to be really easy to integrate to, so that helps. But I'd also say that we want to be the best home for an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is like, hey, I'm fighting a good fight. It's time to raise the white flag. I need help. Like, we're a really good home for entrepreneurs. And so this entrepreneur-led company, I don't have some big private equity firm that's calling the shots behind the scenes. It's a very different value proposition than most other acquirers out there.
I'll take that perhaps to the extreme then for a minute. You think about, what does the future of headcount in a company look like? And you think about how, as AI gets more and more capable, it's going to be able to do more things autonomously. And everybody will essentially be a manager of sorts. And you're going to be a manager, and your individual contributors are all AIs. And you have, either a number of AIs, or maybe one AI that is multi-skilled, but basically you're interfacing with AI to do the individual contributor work, and you're setting goals, and you're setting a vision, and you're setting a strategy, and you are managing and setting a standard and expectations about what really good work looks like. And you hear, companies like Google talking about, especially in the early days, how they loved, kind of having a startup within a startup. But the way that it sounds like Capacity has incubated all these entrepreneurs puts you guys in a very unique position to have folks making maximal leverage on AI, because everybody has that owner operator mindset, that they're running a business and they know how to manage a lot of activity, a lot of action.
Yeah, not to date myself here with my Marvel movie references here, but I view this opportunity to automate support as like Thanos. It's big, it's powerful. It's a big bet. This isn't like the minor villain. This is a big chapter turning villain. And so we are assembling the Avengers. And as part of that, each one of the founders that comes and joins us is bringing a different skill set, a different set of partnerships, a different set of ideas, and it can be a little unruly sometimes. We actually keep regardless of what the formal org structure is, we have like an executive pod of all the former CEOs that come on to the company, and how they interact, and where they think we should go, and how we can help. And so we do a really good job of pulling in folks who have different perspectives, different backgrounds, and who have figured out their part of the elephant. There's a big elephant. It's a big Thanos. Like, you got to be able to put all the powers together. You can't just Hulk it. You can't just have Iron Man go at it. We need everybody working together.
David, you mentioned a little earlier this concept of organizing frameworks. And I remember that's something that is like really a passion of yours, and something that has informed your thinking as an entrepreneur. Could you talk a little bit about like what an organizing framework is?
Yes. So let's start out with a little bit of backstory here. So as a kid, I grew up, I was not very organized. It was, I didn't color in the lines. I would, had terrible handwriting. My room was always a mess. But what I found was, when I could get an organizing pattern, framework, etc., that could like help me stay on task or help me do what I need to go do. It was very helpful. And so you go through school and you end up doing a lot of, I was engineering undergrad. You end up doing a lot of problem solving. And as such, you're given a particular set of problems. You got to go solve them. In many cases, there is one answer. Some cases, there might be a couple of different acceptable answers. But when I got in the world of entrepreneurship, first of all, nobody even tells you what the equation is you're trying to solve. 50 of the variables might be out there. 46 of them don't matter at all. You don't know what the four are. The coefficients on those four are stochastic instead of deterministic. And you've got all of these things that aren't actually going to move the needle, that are chipping away at your time and your energy, et cetera. And so over the last 25 years, I've started collecting these things I call organizing frameworks. And when I think about an organizing framework, I think of it as a simplifying model that you can go apply out to your world. So think of like when you were a kid and you were making the planetary models, right? Without a styrofoam, and you get Jupiter and you have Mars and you got Earth here. That's a simplifying model, but it's not very practical, right? We can't really do a whole lot with that thing. It has to be both simple and it has to be practical. And then when I think of an organizing framework, I start with a question I'm trying to answer, and then I put it through the framework, not to say that it's going to give me the exact specific answer, but it's going to help me think through how I might answer this particular problem. So I'll give you a good example. One of the organizing frameworks we use as a startup is that there are 4 types of people in a startup. You've got your prospectors, who have an intuitive understanding of where the gold is in the land. They know there's gold there. If we get there, we're going to be able to get the gold out. Then you've got your map makers. Your map makers didn't know where the gold was, but when you tell them there's gold there, they will build you the map on how to get there, right? Over the through the valley and around the mountain, avoid the bears, etc. Then you've got your guides. Your guides couldn't prospect. Your guides couldn't map make. But if you hand them the map, they will take a group there. They'll pull the gold out. And they'll bring it back, and they'll do that all day long. And then you have your guides who don't have a map, who are dead in the wilderness. Those are the only 4 types of people in a startup. And so when we introduced this framework to our executive team, it was very helpful because they could come back and say, okay, this person is a guide and I'm trying to make them into a map maker, and they don't have a map maker. We have a gap between our prospector and our guide. Or this person's a great map maker, but we're expecting them to be a prospector, or they want to be a prospector and they're not quite there yet. Or this person is dying in the wilderness because nobody has helped them out in terms of maps. So it's a good example of an organizing framework. Another organizing framework I really like is I think there are 3 types of people with respect to problems. So you've got your problem describers, who can say, this is the problem, here are the details, here's why it's a problem, here's where this comes up. You need those problem describers to accurately like assess the situation. Got a lot of those. Then you got your problem solvers. Problem solvers take what the problem describers have laid out, and they're going to figure out how to go solve the problem. Then you've got your problem selectors. Your problem selectors are the ones who pick which problems are actually worth solving in what order. And so one trap I've run into in my past is I work with some people who are fantastic problem solvers. Knock it out of the park. Like, you hand them the problem, they will figure it out. But if you ask them to pick which problem to go solve, they're going to pick some suboptimal or less important or that sort of thing. And so figuring out, okay, who on the team is a good problem solver, who's a good problem describer, who's a good problem selector, figuring that problem triad out, really important. Another one, this one it came from a Slate article I read a long time ago. It's basically that there are 2 types of people in a company, and they relate back to the Muppets. You've got chaos Muppets and order Muppets. Chaos Muppets are your Ernies. They're high energy. They're enthusiastic. They're coming in with lots of ideas. They tend to make a mess. Order Muppets are your BERTs. They're your process-driven people. They're going to have the spreadsheet. They have thick eyebrows. If you ever want to know who's an Order Muppet in the Muppet world, just look at the size of the eyebrows, and you could tell that, right? Now, it's easy to say, first of all, are you a CCaaS Muppet or an Order Muppet? But then what gets interesting is that there's a Muppet optimality within an organization. If it's all chaos Muppets, then you have no process. If it's all order Muppets, then you're probably not innovating and pushing the boundaries fast enough. If you have all chaos Muppets, you're probably not going to pass your SOC 2 audit. If you're all order Muppets, you're going to miss out on that wave, that thing you need to go build out. So when you look at by team and by organizational structure, you need an optimal number of chaos and order Muppets in order to be successful. So anyway, I can keep going, but I've collected a bunch of these over my 25 years of entrepreneurship, putting them into a book and planning on releasing that here hopefully soon.
One of the crazy things about those organizing frameworks you just laid out, and I was feeling this as you were describing it, is the psychology on the listener or the psychology on the person, the audience who's absorbing it. Because when you're laying out prospector, map maker, where does one's brain normally go? You immediately start bucketing people. You immediately start going, aha, that guy is such a prospector. Or, and I literally thought, I was like, okay, oh, that person's a total prospector. That person's a total map maker. And, so you start to be able to almost make sense of things. And you're following along as you think about the framework. It's really cool. It was really cool to experience, live, real time, how much our brains hunger for that sort of thing when it's available.
Yeah, and look, man, I'm not like I don't need my name in lights. I don't need to ring a bell. I don't need to have a bunch of followers. Like I'm a low approval seeking human, uh, which I think is mostly a positive trait. My wife thinks maybe I'm a little unbalanced on that, but that's a story for a different day. But I just kept having team members of mine, particularly my execs and rising execs, who were like, David, how do you think about this stuff? How do you think about these decisions? And so the whole idea is we're trying to roll out these organizing frameworks within our team so that our team can get better at decision making. So I don't have to parachute in and say, okay, well, did we do this? Did we think of it this way? Did we think of it that way? It doesn't mean I'm always going to be right. It's more the framework of how to tee up the problem as much as anything else. The other big one, I'll leave you with last one, and you can tell me if I need to cut off the frameworks here. But the one that we're using a whole lot are the what we call our machines framework. And the basic idea is that I can go into any organization and I can go into any area, any department, and there are 5 stages of machine you can set up. So the first machine is a non-machine. First stage, things are being recorded haphazardly. They're not in any kind of systematic process. It's just kind of a mess. And unfortunately, with many organizations, there are many processes that are in that stage 1 non-machine. Then you get to stage 2, what I would call a descriptive machine. And a descriptive machine is basically a data recorder where we're going to consistently record things to some kind of storage. So your Google Analytics would be a descriptive machine, right? Your accounting software, your accounting process might be a descriptive machine. Then you've got your what we'll call a predictive machine, which takes what came out of the descriptive machine and makes a prediction about something that will happen in the future. And so that's kind of stage 3. Then you get your stage 4, your prescriptive machine. Okay, based on the descriptions and the predictions, what should we go do? And then stage 5 is a fully automated prescriptive machine where all of those prescriptions are happening completely unaided. So I'll give you just a quick example of how we're doing this as just one type of this. So a couple of years ago, we didn't have any NPS scoring. So I couldn't tell you how people are scoring, if people are happy or sad or this or that. And so it was a non-machine. Then we added NPS into our platform where every 90 days, you use capacity, you get asked, hey, tell us 1 to 10, how are we doing? Leave a comment, etc. So we got it to a descriptive machine. Now we're going to stage three. In stage three, we're doing a predictive machine. Okay, if someone gives us a 9, what's their likelihood to renew? Someone gives us a 4, what's their likelihood to renew? Like what are the key things we want to go predict based on that? Is it different if they give us a 9 and they've been implemented for 2 weeks, or they give us a 9 and they've been implemented for 2 years? Then we get a prescriptive machine. Okay, maybe a 9 or 10. Let's go ask them for a testimonial. Let's go do a webinar. Let's go invite them to speak at our upcoming conference. If it's a 5 or 6, oh, maybe we need to go bring in their CSM, send them additional information, analyze their account. And so that right now that we're kind of going into the stage 4 where those actions are being had manually, and then we're moving towards stage 5 where the machine automatically does that, automatically does all the follow up, does the reach out, etc. And so that's just a simple example where we're taking a process and we're moving it through these 5 stages of machine. These 5 machine stages can apply to every single department within the organization.
David, if I were a new or aspiring manager and I'm listening to the podcast right now, I would rewind and listen to that again. That framework, that organizing framework for how do you stand up something repeatable and that produces consistent quality results and ends up starting from information and ends up with some form of autonomous actioning. That is what you were supposed to do, new and aspiring managers. That's it. That's it. You run these machines. You set these machines. You run them. You make them great. You make sure that you keep some form of measurement so they stay great, and then you go and build a new machine. So
yeah, and that's what the decade of agents is.
Yes,
Decade of agents is effectively moving companies from non-machines to automated prescriptive machines.
David, if we were to zoom out and say, where do we see AI going broadly over the next 3 years? It's impossible to predict, but what do you think? Where do you see AI going?
Yeah, so let's say for 3 years, I think you will continue to see additional work on the reasoning models. So, if an AI 2 years ago couldn't pass the LSAT and today can pass the LSAT, and then 2 years from now will ace the LSAT, like you'll see some of that continue. There's a lot of training data behind that. I can go give a bunch of LSAT or GMAT or pick your whatever question set and train the model to pick that stuff up. I think what's going to be fascinating is when the reasoning models start to apply to non-academic reasoning scenarios. For example, we're doing a pricing change. We're launching a new package. How should we price that relative to these customers? That's a great example of an AI-powered reasoning model that today does not exist. In 3 years, I think we will have. It's not an academic, fill in the bubble, fill in the Scantron kind of thing, but it's a great use case of, okay, if I look at we have 19,000 customers. We look at our 19,000 customers. We look at how all of them are priced today. We look at how long they've been on. We look at what their usage looks like. We look at what parts of the platform they're using. We look at their NPS. We look at all of this. What is the optimal pricing packaging going forward? That's a great use case for a reasoning model. It's going to be a lot of agent of agents, where you'll have this kind of like main generic agent that kind of can handle 70% of everything. And then you're going to have specific agents that handle 20% of everything. And then you'll still have the 10% that goes up to humans. What will happen is maybe it's 60-30 today. That 30% will start bleeding into the 70% or 60% over time. So the main agent will get better and better, but you'll still have need for sub-specified agents. And then the portion that goes up to a human, as long as you start from the first principle that whatever a human does needs to be fed back into the machine, that's when those models are going to continue to improve. So said slightly differently, the foundation models don't need more internet to scrape. They scraped it. There's new content being produced every day on the internet. It'll continue to evolve, but they don't need more English words. They're not out of they don't lack English words, right? What people tend to underappreciate is how many processes, how much reasoning is still in people's heads that has not been captured on the internet, has not been captured in documentation, it's not in a PDF somewhere. And so that is going to be the next big push is how do we start to get human reasoning recognized by these AIs. And I think in 3 years, we're going to make a lot of progress on that.
David, thank you so much for joining me. Truly, I'm inspired and blown away by what you've done with capacity.
Thank you.
I'm inspired by you and how you think as an entrepreneur. I don't like to pick favorites on episodes, but this might be my favorite. Seriously, thank you. Thank you for joining me. This was amazing.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me, and we're rooting for you and Volto and everything you guys are doing, and I just appreciate the time.